Good evening and welcome to our June 10th meeting. Chris, could I have a motion to return from our public session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. In a second, we are going to stand for the flag salute like we always do. I'll ask when everybody stands this evening at the end of the flag salute, if everybody could remain standing as we have a moment of silence and honor and recognize the passing of Helen Kirsch, who died this week. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. It is with a heavy heart and great sadness that we shared earlier this week the passing of longtime board member Helen Kirsch. She was a fierce advocate for students and truly an educational icon in the Berkeley Heights community. The Berkeley Heights Board of Education and its entire staff extend our heartfelt condolences to the entire Kirsch family on their great loss. I hope people got a chance to read the tribute letter that was published last week, as it was wonderful to read what countless others had to say about Helen, her contributions to our community, and the indelible mark that she has left. Helen would have loved tonight because it's all about students and their respective achievements. I want to share a few words that Helen's family included in her obituary. Helen was someone who made everyone around her feel comfortable, valued, and loved. She was an incredible listener and caretaker, always putting other people's needs before her own. Her favorite place was at the Jersey Shore, where she annually hosted her family and friends, spent time there together, making incredible memories. Helen will always be remembered and held in the hearts of her family, her friends, and the entire community. Helen's passing is a true loss to the town of Berkeley Heights, and she will live on in the hearts of everyone she touched. In typical Helen fashion, donations can be made to educational organizations, the Union County Educational Services Foundation, and our very own Berkeley Heights Education Foundation. Helen, on behalf of everyone who has had the benefit of knowing you, God bless your soul and may you rest in peace.
Amen.
Amen. Could I get a motion for the approval of minutes for our May 13th meeting?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are now part of our official record. Donna, correspondence.
There are 33 pieces of correspondence on the agenda and many different topics. And there are also 33 OPRA requests.
Got it. Thank you. I would note that of the 33 correspondence that came in this month, 24 are from one individual. And of the 32 OPRA requests that were submitted this month, 23 of those are from one individual. Mike, if we can promote our two student representatives.
On it right now.
Thank you, Mike. As soon as I see Emily Haynes first. Emily, good evening. Welcome to the last 4 days of your high school career. And I'm sure Tomas is joining. I see Tomas is there. Tomas, welcome to 1 year and 4 days left of your high school career. With that, Emily, I will start with you.
Perfect. As the year comes to a close, we have some notable things to acknowledge on the sports end of things. To start off, boys baseball won the Union County Championships, both JV and varsity. Unfortunately, varsity lost to Raritan in Group 2 semifinals. Softball lost in the Union County Championships, but are hopeful as they are playing for Group 2 semifinals today. Boys lacrosse won the Clank Division Championship for the New Jersey Lacrosse League. Boys track also won the Union County Mountain Division Championship in the League of New Jersey. As well in track, several students advanced to groups which are taking place tomorrow and Saturday. A notable mention to Nick Tarabokia, who won the Discus Central Jersey groups. Girls lacrosse finished their season with a winning record and a great win against Cedar Grove this past Monday. And lastly, both boys tennis and golf both completed their season a couple weeks ago and had great seasons. Overall, we were very thankful that all the seasons went well and all the seniors got a last chance to play through their seasons that were taken from them last year. The school can't wait to see what is to come in the next years. Thank you.
Great, Emily, thank you very much. Tomas.
By now, most clubs have held their final meetings and participated in their final events. They have thanked the graduating officers, and new officers have begun planning events. The determination of students to find meaningful ways to participate in these activities, despite the continuing challenges posed by COVID-19 restrictions, has been impressive. Many club leaders found ways to expand the activities of their clubs and also found ways to help address the needs in the greater community. To briefly summarize these many activities, clubs like Technology Students Association, Science Olympiad, STEM League, and Math League all continue to participate in regional and state competitions, with several teams taking first place in these competitions. Culture and diversity-based clubs such as the Italian Club, Spanish Club, Understanding Asian Culture Club, and the Sexuality and Gender Acceptance Club expanded the scope of their actions by spreading awareness to not only GL students, but also to administrators and students in different grade levels. These actions have been invaluable to the community, considering the many events of social injustice in society that have come to light recently. Interact, Student Auxiliary, Student Ambassadors, and Trend have all found ways to help the school and greater community, targeting those in greatest need by hosting fundraisers and distributing essential supplies. Honor Societies continued offering free tutoring services to students throughout the district. These efforts were vital to maintain student achievement as changes in instruction challenged many students. Furthermore, we saw the formation of new student groups, including Students in Prayer, Music Club, and the Jewish Student Union, which both began successfully this year by building a group of members and conducting regular meetings. The extensive list of accomplishments of students cannot be mentioned in this short period of time, but they were all truly remarkable given the circumstances. It is hard to imagine all that they will accomplish next year when they can operate without these many obstructions.
Tomas, thank you very much. Any questions for our student reps? Emily, I'll start with a question for you. So you are on the cusp of your graduation from Governor Livingston after spending 13 years in school. What are you feeling like with a couple of days left of school and getting ready to move on to the next educational step in your life? Emily, you're on mute.
Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute. Sorry about that. I can say I'm nervous and excited. I go to do all my college stuff and I sit there, I'm like, where's Miss Morin to help me? I just need her. I need the guidance office. I have to do this all by myself, but I'm excited to go to somewhere new and try new things. But I am gonna miss it at GL. So I can say that.
And Tomas, you're on the cusp of finishing your junior year, a summer off, and then coming back for your senior year. What are your thoughts as you embark on your senior year coming up?
I'm thankful that this year is over. It was a long and stressful year. It was a different year and a lot of challenges came with that, but it also increasing course load and difficulty. But I'm looking forward to, the next step, which I take next year as I apply to college. And I'm confident that my, all these years at GL and prior schools have prepared me well. So.
Great. Are there any other questions from board members for our student reps?
Just a note of congratulations, Emily. I remember you from kindergarten, and I can't believe you guys made it to high school and graduating, and I know you'll do great things. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Where are you off to, Emily? Is it near or far?
Far. I'm going to LSU for engineering.
Good luck. I'm
Thank you.
sure you're going to do great.
Thank you.
Great. So thanks to both of you. Stick around. We will be recognizing both of you this evening in a little bit. Let me make two other just announcements before I turn it over to Dr. Varley for a superintendent's report. You'll note that most of the board members are not wearing masks tonight, even though we are inside of Columbia. We have gotten guidance from the executive county superintendent that for going forward board meetings, even though the meetings are held indoors, we are not required to wear masks, which is where you see most of us not wearing masks. The second thing is we have a number of items in the superintendent's report that Dr. Varley is going to get to. This is a night that we focus on student achievement. I am not going to steal anybody's thunder other than say that we have a lot of students to recognize for their achievement. We have sports teams that are going to be recognized. We have individuals. We also have our police department. So we have a number of things to cover in the superintendent's report, which I'm sure Dr. Varley will cover. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to join the Board of Education in offering condolences to Mrs. Kirsch's family and friends on behalf of the entire Berkeley Heights public school system. It was a great privilege to work with Helen over the past 2 years. She was our institutional memory and was a tireless advocate for generations of students. We honor her memory, her service, and her lifelong dedication to the children of Berkeley Heights. She will be dearly missed. I would also like to take a moment to congratulate Patty Gasparini on her retirement. It is well deserved. We have a full agenda this evening. Before we begin, I would like to announce that we are closing the investigation that was started after the December 21st Board of Education meeting. The attorney doing the investigation has reached out to every complainant and received no information in return. Therefore, there is no need to continue the investigation. If someone were to come forward in the future, we would follow the same process and reopen the investigation. The lack of actionable accusations does not diminish the important message that our graduates related to us at the December meeting. Berkeley Heights Public Schools has systemic issues that will need to be addressed, and we are committed to building a welcoming and inclusive environment for all of our students. As an update on our construction, the Department of Education is currently backlogged on their construction approvals. Therefore, at this time, we do not have approval to begin construction on the bathrooms at Mary Kay McMillan or at William Woodruff. We are working diligently to gain such approval. However, we have a backup plan should the approval not come through in a timely manner. We can make do with the bathrooms we have at Mary Kay McMillan and focus on Woodruff should the approval come through later than we would like. If approval does not come through in time for construction to be at all during the summer, we can have personnel members escort the kindergarten students to the bathroom, which will solve the line of sight issue for bathrooms. This has been confirmed as acceptable by the Executive County Business Administrator. The One Book, One Community Summer Book Club is getting ready to kick off. Our book will be How to Be an Anti-Racist. We will be sending that information out soon. And now, Mike, if you can promote Frankie May, he's going to give us a conversation about the new laws regarding marijuana. And Frank is from the Berkeley Heights Police Department.
Sergeant Fetties will be presenting.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. Just bear with me 1 second. My name is Sergeant Fess. I'm with the Berkeley Heights Police Department. And attempt to, Mike, can you share my screen?
I'll give you permission right now.
Great. We do a brief overview of the marijuana updates as they relate to New Jersey's recently passed law.
Go ahead, sir.
So there's three new bills that were passed as far as the marijuana legislation. One second, just gotta- The legalization came regulated cannabis. Where this comes into play is it's the term regulated cannabis. So any item that is going to be bought or sold underneath the regulations of New Jersey will be called regulated cannabis. This actually won't be a term that is in use for the next several months because New Jersey's Regulatory Commission on Cannabis has not officially been set up. The next bill is the decriminalization of the common term of marijuana and hashish. The forms of the substance are not regulated cannabis, marijuana, or hashish or hash. They're still defined as a controlled dangerous substance for the purposes of distribution in large quantities. So some laws that existed are will be eliminated, and the new ones coming in for the larger quantity of distribution will still use that term, marijuana and hashish. And the underage provision is what we'll be getting into as well, as far as what they can and can't. So the decriminalization, these are some crimes that are no longer a crime by statute, and that would include simple possession, 6 ounces or less of marijuana, or 17 grams of less of hash, and that was normally a disorderly persons offense. The next one is being under the influence of marijuana or hash. That would also be a disorderly persons offense. That is no longer an arrestable offense. And failure to properly dispose of marijuana or hash. And the last crime per se is the possession of drug paraphernalia if used or intended to be used with marijuana or hash. And the last one is actually a Title 39 offense, and would be just a motor vehicle summons, and that's possession of marijuana or hash in a motor vehicle. So this is a threshold that would be punishable under a crime for marijuana. If you have more than 6 ounces and it's consistent with distribution, that would be a crime of the 4th degree. So therefore, if it's 6 ounces or less, then it is not a crime. And that also goes with hash. 17 grams is the threshold, and that is also a 4th degree crime. So the threshold, obviously 17 grams or less, is not a crime anymore. So the decriminalization, as far as search and seizure go, typically when a law enforcement officer had an encounter with somebody and they smelt the odor of marijuana or hash coming from them or their motor vehicle, that was gave them a reasonable articulable suspicion that they could stop, search that person, and determine whether or not they had if they had 1 ounce of marijuana or less, they could be charged. That is gone by the wayside. So the odor does not give us that opportunity to search them. So even if they smell like marijuana, we cannot search them anymore. Distribution of large amounts. So if there is any indication that somebody is distributing large amounts of marijuana or conducting any other unlawful activity, the law enforcement officer still has the right to detain that person and investigate and possibly arrest. Seizing the marijuana, it is still technically a controlled dangerous substance based off of that prior definition we had. So we may seize the marijuana even though we don't charge that individual per se. So this is where we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of it. I don't typically like to read off my slides, but because this, I think, is what everyone's kind of wants to know about. So for first offense, if we get somebody that is underage, we will issue a written warning to that underage person, which includes their name, date of birth, and address. And law enforcement officers will be required to, or are authorized to ask that information of the juvenile or whoever it is. The second offense, a written warning will be issued to the underage person, plus provide that person with additional material on community drug and treatment services. If the person is under the age of 18, the officer shall provide written notice of the violation to the person's parent or guardian, and that also includes the information material. I'm just having trouble with the third one. And the third is a written warning issued, as well as providing the person with community treatment. The officer, again, will provide a written warning to the parent and also community treatment opportunities. These are, this is an amendment that was put into place pretty rapidly after these bills were passed. And it requires the police to notify the parent every time a minor under the age of 18 has contact with the officer, providing that written warning, including the first written warning. It also allows the law enforcement officers to temporarily detain that individual while they gather the information and are able to document that as well. And that was signed into law by Governor Murphy. So we also, albeit everything that I said, we still have a community caretaking function. We still have the ability and the obligation to assist people that are in need, intoxicated, you name it, whether it be alcohol or marijuana. But it doesn't also stop there. If there's a need for medical attention or something else that beyond the medical attention, just getting that person home to a safe place, we also will do that. So if the person is incapacitated, we will provide, and we have a duty to provide safe refuge for them until we can get a parent to take custody of them, as is outlined in the alcohol treatment rehabilitation. There any questions? It was just a brief snippet. The law is always changing, obviously, as you saw with some of the revisions that were already made in March. So everything is kind of evolving, and we're learning as well with our prosecutor's office, whatnot.
Questions from the board for Trent?
Yes, I have a question, Officer Fettis. Are the warnings for underage possession or usage similar to the warnings for underage use of alcohol, or are they different?
We're still developing. We're waiting on that from the Office of Attorney Generals to use a uniform warning form. So we're waiting to get those passed down to us. We're still waiting to get those.
So it sounds like they may be similar.
Yes, I would assume so.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board? So my question is, what are we doing to educate the students about this? I know we have class 3 officers at both the middle school and the high school. And this could be maybe jointly for yourself, Dr. Varley, for you as well. Are we doing anything to educate the students about these changes in the law?
We are talking. I'm Doctor. I may not be privy to the conversations that go on between the chief and Dr. Varley, but I know from at least in-house and with the support services division, there has been conversations of how we're gonna roll this out, and we're still learning about it because it's obviously a new topic. But we're discussing, the importance of it, and educating the students and whatnot, and the public. We have our coffee with the cop that we were doing kind of weekly with the community policing unit, trying to just get out to the community, talk to parents, and that will continue obviously through the summer. So our door is always open. I think we have a pretty good relationship as far as with some of the youth in town and obviously the school. So, we're dialoguing of how to do it best.
We also, we have sent our student assistant counselor to training on the new law. And like Officer Fed has said, it's constantly changing. So we're kind of holding off on sending her to many trainings because it's going to continue to change as the law keeps changing.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, Sergeant, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Dr. Owen, what's next?
Mr. Reinstein, you will recognize our student representatives.
Great. The first one we're going to recognize is Emily Haynes. Emily, I'm about to read a resolution in your honor, which we will have this delivered up to the high school tomorrow. In past years, you'd be sitting in front of me. And we're going to get a chance to shake your hand and to congratulate you for your 2 years. Whereas Emily Haynes is a senior at Governor Livingston High School, whereas Emily is the Student Body Executive Board Vice President, an Executive Board member of Student Ambassadors, a Class of 21 representative, a member of the STEM League, as well as a participant in the Robotics Club. Whereas Emily volunteers as the Union County Student Training and Enrichment Community Program Ambassador, is a member of a Relay for Life team, has volunteered at the Berkeley Heights YMCA, assisting with and participating in programs for children with special needs. Whereas Emily is a student athlete and varsity letter winner participating in cheerleading, winter track and lacrosse. Whereas Emily is a member of the National Honor Society, Mu Alpha Theta Honor Society, and the Science Honor Society. Whereas Emily is a Girl Scout Gold Award recipient. Whereas Emily served with distinction in the GL Student Liaison Program to the Berkeley Heights Board of Ed for her junior and senior year, serving as a liaison between the board and her peers. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board hereby recognizes Emily Haynes for her contributions to the students of Berkeley Heights Public Schools and for her services to the communities of Berkeley Heights and Mountainside. Be it further resolved that the board wishes Emily the best of luck as she moves on to study biomedical engineering at Louisiana State University next fall. Signed and sealed this 10th day of June, 2021. Emily, again, thank you very much for your 2 years of service. We are a better board because of your help.
Thank you.
Tomas. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you, Dr. Varley. This is what the plaques look like. Whereas Tomas Burke is a junior at Governor Livingston High School, whereas Tomas is Student Council Treasurer, the President of the Future Business Leaders of America and the Technology Students Association, the Vice President of the Junior Statesmen of America, and is a participant in the Berkeley Heights Diversity Council and the Student Advisory Council. Whereas Tomas volunteers as a golf coach and at the St. Teresa of Avila Church as a greeter, translator, and film broadcaster. Whereas Tomas is a student athlete and a varsity letter winner participating in golf. Whereas Tomas continues to be a member of the National Honor Society, Mu Alpha Theta Honor Society, the Spanish Honor Society, and the Science Honor Society. Whereas Tomas served with distinction in the GL Student Liaison Program to the Berkeley Heights Board for his junior year, serving as a liaison between the board and his peers. Now therefore be it resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Ed hereby recognizes Tomas for his contributions to the students of Berkeley Heights Public Schools and for his service to the communities of Berkeley Heights and Mountainside. Be it further resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Ed wishes Tomas the best of luck as he moves into his senior year at Governor Livingston next year, signed and sealed this 10th day of June in the year 2021. Tomas, thank you very much. I had the chance to meet Tomas at the National Honor Society induction ceremony last week. So after looking at Tomas for a year on Zoom, I got a chance to actually shake his hand about a week or 10 days ago. So Tomas, thank you very much for all you've done. We look forward to welcoming you back again next year.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we would like to, Mike, if you can promote Lou Clemente and Chris Roof. I'll give, wait 1 second.
On it right now.
Okay, thank you. Coach Clemente, would you like to talk about your, the junior varsity baseball team?
I sure would. I appreciate everybody here tonight for having us. I just want to kind of go over the team itself, my coaching staff, Coach Garrett Hain, Coach James Cariello, our manager, Greg Patterson, and then the players on this year's JV County Championship team, John Murphy, Brian Kramer, George Pravell, Captain Jimmy Ruban, Andrew Wilson, Liam Quigley, Thomas D'Annunzio, Matthew Schaefer, Daniel Pupo, Jackson Wentz, Lewis Wood, Roman Andre, Vinny Fabio, Anthony Labisi, Lev Villanueva, Michael Gertzma, and Max Hernandez. I just want to thank Coach Roof, obviously, for everything he does for the program, along with Ann, Ashley Reedy, Todd Hirsch, and everyone here tonight. I really want to thank everybody that made the season possible after not having a season last year with COVID. So that was definitely something that was a blessing for us and very thankful. The county tournament run, we were the number 2 seed. We got a bye in the first round. We ended up playing Summit in the quarterfinal. We beat them 11-1. Then we moved on to the semifinal against Cranford, which was a roller coaster of a game. We were up 9-0. Then it was 9-3. Then it was 11-3. Then it was 11-10. And we ended up winning 14-11 in that game, which we ended up going to play at Arthur L. Johnson in the final against Scotch Plains, a team that had defeated us in the championship 2 years ago. A lot of the varsity guys now were on that team as well. And we were able to prevail 5-2 and secure the county championship. So just want to thank everybody on the staff and on my team for everything they did for me this year. Thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it.
Congratulations to the junior varsity baseball team for their being Union County Tournament champions.
Coach, we also have a resolution for you, very similar to the one that I just showed before. You have done me an enormous debt of gratitude. You read all the names of the people that there's no way I could potentially pronounce their names right. So I don't have to read the first paragraph of this resolution because you announced all the names. So I truly thank you for that. I'll start with the second paragraph. Whereas the team is coached by head coach Lou Clemente and assistant coaches Garrett Hain, James Cariello, and managers include Greg Patterson, and serving as team captain Jimmy Ruban. Whereas the junior varsity baseball team of Governor Livingston High School captured the title of the 2021 Union County Tournament champions after defeating Scotch Plains 5-2 at ALJ in the final round. Some of the highlights of the championship season include an 11-1 quarterfinal round win over Summit and a semifinal win over Cranford 14-11. Whereas Governor Livingston High School won the Union County Tournament champion for the second time in school history and for the second time in the past 3 years. Whereas the team saw each of its members contribute individually to the team, and team player Liam Quigley had an outstanding day at the plate with a double and 3 RBIs. Whereas the Berkeley Heights Public School community is very proud of the accomplishments of this team and its coaches. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Berkeley Heights board members applaud the 2021 JV baseball team and congratulate the student athletes on an outstanding championship season. Be it resolved that a signed and sealed copy of this resolution be framed and kept on display at GL, signed and sealed this 10th day of June, 2021. Coach, we'll get this up to you tomorrow at the high school, and I'm sure you will proudly display this with the other resolutions. We're about to move on to the varsity baseball one, someone who I know quite well, who's been here before. So Dr. Varley.
Coach Roof, would you like to talk to us about the varsity baseball team? They are the Union County Tournament champions as well.
Sure, and thank you very much for having all of us, our entire program. We're very appreciative of you guys honoring us tonight. With that, I would like to obviously thank the Board of Education, our GL administration, Miss Ann Clifton, who does an unbelievable job as our supervisor, Ashley Reedy, her secretary, and Todd Hirsch, our trainer. And I would also like to, congratulate my assistant coach, Lou Clemente, and his two assistant coaches, Garrett Hain and James Cariello, for winning the JV county championship. As a small school, so to speak, in the county, as a Group 2 school with a little over 1,000 kids, going up, against schools that are double us and even triple us, it's probably the hardest thing for us to win out of everything, out of a conference or even a state championship. So that's something, as a coach, being here for almost 20 years, I'm very, very proud of. We were the number 3 seed, and we went on and we defeated Plainfield in the first round, 13-3. We then took on our neighbor, New Providence, in a really tight game, beat them 7-3. We then played Union High School in the semifinals, and we beat them 11-4. And then we played Westfield in the county final at Williams Field in Elizabeth. And it took 2 days because of weather, but we ended up 10 running them 16-6. We had to come back literally for, we were batting in the bottom half of the inning, and it took 3 batters for us to walk it off with a Freddie Troncali double. So it was very special winning that. That was our, playing for GL and playing for legendary coach Bill Howard. That was always the hardest thing to do, is to win the county championship. And we've done it 3 times in the last 5 years. So I'm very, very proud of that. And we put up 47 runs in 4 games. So our offense really did the job, and obviously our pitching did too. With that, I also want to mention my wonderful coaching staff that just do an amazing job. Our varsity assistant, Matt Rago, Chris Flynn, who worked with our hitters, Brian Young, Sam Politan, and Ernie Schmidt. Also, I would like to, and I'll help you, Doug. I'm going to read off the players that were a part of this too. We had 8 unbelievable seniors, and you're only as good as your seniors. And these seniors are top notch, one of the best I've ever been around in 21 years. We had 3 captains, Jason Schmidt, Michael Schaefer, and Jack Pires. But we also had seniors Ryan Diskin, Bryant Bazidlo, Matty Morawski, Freddie Troncali, and Gavin Malavi, who were just amazing, amazing human beings. And everything they brought for leadership for these younger kids is really, really incredible. Juniors, we had Dan Bass, Robert Murphy, Nick Gold, Patrick Tulo, and Michael Labisi. We had 2 sophomores, and not to be confused, we had a John Schmidt and we had a Jonathan Schmidt. That's a first. And we have a freshman up on varsity, Matthew Kasuda. I also don't want to leave out our 4 managers that did so much and were wonderful. Sophie Rittenhouse, Jacqueline Filiacci, Gabby DeRose, and Carly Tulo. That's it.
Mr. Reinstein?
Chris, thank you very much. You actually did one step better. You saved me the first 2 paragraphs of this resolution, because you did all the players, all the coaches, all the managers, and all the team captains. So that's it. So before I read the rest of the resolution, which is not that much left, that Chris has been at these meetings before. Chris is a regular at this time in the spring, because our baseball program has truly been just a remarkable program that has had a lot of success. What some might not know is over the course of this year, I think it was about a month ago, Chris notched his 400th win as a head coach. I don't know the numbers, but there is a very small number of people in the state of New Jersey who have notched a 400th win. So over the course of 20 years, we have seen enormous success. Chris has built a tremendous program. Chris, one of our alumni, he played played for GL on the baseball team, and has come back to his alma mater and both taught in our school and coached our kids for many years. So Chris, you have our thanks for all of the young athletes that you have helped grow over these years, not just as athletes, but as young men. And I've talked to some of them who've talked about that, and I know quite well that you keep in touch with them, as a number of those kids have gone on to play at the college level. So you have our thanks for that. So I'll read the rest of this, which starts with, whereas the varsity baseball team at GL captured the 2021 Union County Championship, defeating Westfield 16-6 at Elizabeth in the final round. Highlights include a 7-3 quarterfinal win over Providence, a semifinal win over Union, and Governor Livingston won the Union County tournament championship for the third time in the school's history and the third time in the last 5 years. The Highlanders scored an amazing 47 runs in those 4 games. Whereas each team saw its members contribute individually to the team, whereas the Berkeley Heights Public School is very proud of the accomplishments of this team and its coaches. Be it resolved that the Board of Ed members applaud the 2021 varsity baseball team and congratulate the student athletes on an outstanding champion season. Signed and sealed. Resolution to be framed and kept on display at GL and signed and sealed this 10th day of June in the year of 2021. So for Lou and for Chris and for the whole baseball program, we congratulate you for the success you've had, probably more importantly, for keeping our student athletes busy, keeping them motivated, teaching them teamwork, teaching them leadership, and making them better individuals along the way of having a lot of success. So Chris, congratulations. We'll get this up to you tomorrow at the high school, and we congratulate you and your team.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Now we will have more good news with our recognition of our student achievers from Governor Livingston High School. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McKinney.
Mike, if you could allow me to share my screen.
You should be good, sir.
Good evening and welcome to our annual Board of Education Student Recognition Program. This school year has been a year of many firsts and great challenges. Everyone in our school community has been impacted by this pandemic and was forced to make the best of and adapt to our ever-changing learning environment. Through it all, our teachers, our parents, and our administrators pulled together to find creative solutions that provided our students with as many positive experiences as possible. And while the number of student opportunities paled in comparison to previous years, and many of the traditional events did not occur in the same ways, the students here tonight made the most of these limited opportunities. These students excelled in spite of the obstacles that were put in their way. These students are well prepared for their futures and ready more than ever for the adversity and the challenges that may lie ahead. We congratulate them on their superior work and incredible accomplishments and only wish that we could be together to celebrate in person. And while a Zoom presentation cannot do this program justice, it can never diminish the incredible talents and extraordinary hard work of these students who have earned their accolades for being among the best of the best at the county, state, and/or national levels. So as I turn the program over to Mr. Nixon to begin recognizing these students, I am honored to welcome you and your family and to congratulate you on behalf of Dr. Varley, Mr. Reinstein, and the entire Board of Education, as well as all of the teachers and staff members who have had the pleasure to watch you excel as students in our classrooms. Students, we applaud you for what you have already accomplished and can't wait to hear about all of your future successes. Mr. Nixon.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney, and good evening, and congratulations to everybody being recognized. From our student board representatives to our JV and varsity baseball teams, we are really, really proud of everybody and all of their accomplishments at Governor Livingston High School this year. Tonight, I have the pleasure of sharing with you the names of the commended students as part of the 2021 National Merit Scholarship Program. These students are Matthew Chin, Caitlin Darty, Zachary Glenn, Desmond Lamb, Aiden Pine, Joshua Vaidman, and Richard Wetterer. Congratulations to everybody for this tremendous achievement. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Ashley Janosko, our Director of School Counseling. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. For recognition of ACT Perfect Score, Matthew Chin, Caitlin M. Doherty, SET Perfect Score in Mathematics, Sophia Crescitello, for the Union County Superintendent's Roundtable Outstanding Scholar, Matthew Chin and Desmond Lamb. I will now turn this presentation over to Mr. Stephen Hopkins, the Director of Special Projects.
Good evening. I'd like to recognize the winner of the Berkeley Heights League of Women Voters Citizenship Award, Alyssa Pradhan, and the 2021 National Spanish Exam Oro Gold Medal status, Tomas Burke, Sophia Judice, Gia Ghosh, Olivia Marie Judice, Delana Ministro, and Anna Valentina Zubrinik. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. James Finley, Supervisor of Science and Fine Arts.
Good evening. It's my honor to present the awards in science, specifically the New Jersey TSA Teams Competition Awards, which are tests in engineering, aptitude, mathematics, and science. We had 4 qualifying teams this year in different areas. The first is our grade 9 and 10 team, which placed 2nd place in division overall and 3rd place in state science knowledge. That was Sophia Judice, Lauren O'Rourke, Serena Yee, and Catherine Zhao. Our 2nd grade 9 and 10 team placed 1st in state in scientific writing, 1st place in division overall, and 5th place in state overall. They were Aiden Lindy and Ryan Wetterer. Our 11th and 12th grade teams placed 2nd in their division overall. That was Caitlin Doherty, Desmond Lamb, Joshua Vaidman, and Richard Wetterer. And then finally, our 2nd grade 11 and 12 teams placed 1st in division overall and 3rd in state for their scientific writing. That was Tomas Burke, Jacob Tyler Kui Sumbing, and Charles Santori. Congratulations to all. It's now my pleasure to introduce Ms. Lori Scott, Supervisor of Language Arts.
Good evening. The first award is the 2021 All Eastern Honors Ensemble Orchestra, Alexander Moon on cello. Then a series of awards from the Garden State Scholastic Press Association. Reviews: Sasha Ridishev, 2nd place, I Am Not Okay With This. Opinion writing: Sasha Ridishev, 1st place, How We Can Move Forward in the Discussion on Race. 3rd place, How GL Can Be Doing Its Part to Reduce Climate Change. Special coverage, pandemic news, Aiden English, 3rd place, GL students take to the streets in community protests to make their voices heard. Photo gallery, Aiden English and Sarah Hagan, 2nd place, GL students take to the streets in community protests to make their voices heard. Next, I want to introduce Mr. Drew Ziobro, Supervisor of Mathematics and Practical Arts.
Thank you, Lori. It's my pleasure tonight to recognize our New Jersey Future Business Leaders of America for the results in the regional competition. For 1st place in Securities and Investments, Tomas Burke. For 2nd place in Business Law, Caitlin M. Doherty. And for 3rd place in Security and Investments, Tasso Kenesius. I'd also like to recognize our MathWorks modeling team, the M3 Challenge. Our team placed this year in top 7 in the nation. Brandon Lim, Christopher Marienko, Jacob Tyler Quisenbring, Charles Santor, and Drew Schiller. I'd like to now introduce Ann Clifton, our Director of Athletics and Supervisor of Health and Physical Education.
Thank you, Drew. It's my honor to be here tonight, actually in front of Governor Livingston High School. And I'm honored to once again recognize our boys baseball team, our varsity and JV team. We feel that we are on the top of Union County as Union County 2021 champions. It's also my honor to recognize our NGSI State Sectional Champion, Central Section Group 2 Boys Discus Event Champion, Nicholas Tarabuca. Now, I'd like to turn it back to Mr. McKinney. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody. It really is an amazing collection of talent and achievements, especially under these circumstances. And we are so very proud of you. And I turn it over to Dr. Varley for some closing congratulations.
Congratulations. This is fantastic just to watch the amount of scholars and musicians and artists that we have, writers across our great school of Governor Livingston. And now we're going to move on to something that is not as great, our report of incidents of violence, vandalism, substance abuse, harassment, intimidation, and bullying for the period September 1, 2020 through December 31st of 2020. I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy Zahn, our HIB coordinator.
Thank you, Dr. Varley. Mike, can I share my screen, please?
You're ready to go, Megan.
Thank you. As Dr. Varley mentioned, I am discussing the reporting period 1 results for HIB, violence and vandalism. And that is from September 1 to December 31st, 2020. Typically at this presentation, I also give the HIB grades for our self-assessment report, but as of today, we haven't received the scores yet, so I can't report on that. At this point last year, we did have them, so I'm not sure when they'll come out, but when they do, we will share them. So for our reporting period 1, our numbers are significantly reduced. There was 1 act of violence at Governor Livingston that was a simple threat, and there was 1 confirmed HIB at Governor Livingston. So as you can see, this is just a comparison of reporting period 1 over the last 3 years, and we have 2 incidences. Here's our reporting period 1 HIB data. We had 9 investigations at Governor Livingston, 1 at Columbia, 2 at Mountain Park, for a total of 12. Only 1 was confirmed, and we had 3 pre-screenings that did not warrant an investigation. That's a decision made by the principal and the ABS. That was, we have that ability now as a result of changing our board policy last March. So the category of the confirmed HIB was disability at Governor Livingston. And here's just a comparison over the last 3 years. And of course, you know, the closure with COVID and students being remote definitely, I think, affected our numbers. As you can see, we only had 12 investigations where we typically had more in the past, and just 1 confirmed case. Here's a list of we are required to list our anti-bullying specialists who have done investigations. This includes all the names of the anti-bullying specialists. Since there were only 12 investigations, not everyone had to do an investigation. And our fall training and programs, here is a list. We do a HIB refresher every year. We do HIB training for new staff. I attend monthly county meetings for all the anti-bullying coordinators. We have school safety climate team meetings. We have district HIB committee meetings, district level and school level diversity committee meetings, week of respect activities, social emotional learning training activities, and unconscious bias training. So that was a lot for September to December. And of course, many activities continue throughout the year. So that was brief, since our numbers were very low. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions from the board for Chrissy? I'm not seeing anybody. Chrissy, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zahn. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Before you conclude, can we give a round of applause to all the outstanding students?
Absolutely. That's a great idea.
Okay, Dr. Rowley, thank you for that report. Moving on, liaison reports. Does anybody have any liaison reports this evening? Chris?
I have one. We had a technology committee meeting last Monday, and Mike Scara, we covered a number of items, but the two things that I think are noteworthy, Mike Scara gave us the good news that despite many of the inventory issues you may be reading about in the news or hearing about through the grapevine, we are in very good shape with all of our new technology purchases, all of which are now in-house. So we will have the entire summer to make sure we're well organized for the reopening of school this fall. We also talked about how to improve the technology behind automated notifications to certain parents in the community and in the district. And there's more work to do there, but we're making progress. And that's about it.
Great, thank you. Any other liaison reports? I'll just share one. Dr. Rowley and I continued our monthly meetings with the PTOs. It was our last meeting of the year. This is the one where the principals attend. The principals give updates about what's going on in their schools. As happens at the end of each year, we always thank the PTO team and officers for their schools. They have a new slate that's coming in again next year. And we look forward to working with that leadership team next year. With that, if there are no other liaison reports, we'll move on to facilities report. Donna, facilities.
Tonight on the agenda, we are reviewing contracts for routine building maintenance for next year. This includes alarm monitoring, HVAC repairs, and boiler cleaning. One of our summer projects is replacing classroom floor tile at the high school. Tonight, we're awarding the contract for the removal of asbestos floor tile. We're also approving the emergency repairs for HVAC upgrades at the Mary K. McMillan. And we recently received the recommendations from the traffic study, the study that was done at the 4 elementary schools. In late May, John McCormick, who was the engineer for the traffic study, Dr. Varley, Kelly, and I met with the Berkeley Heights Police Department traffic officers and the township engineer to review the recommendations. The Finance and Facilities Committee will review the recommendations next week, and they'll prioritize the recommendations. The report has several recommendations for each school. Each recommendation is categorized into procedural things, construction projects, timelines for implementation, and costs. Some will be easy to implement, and we will have them implemented for September. Others will require more long-term planning and budgeting. We will share these results at the next board meeting. And that's it.
Thanks, Donna. Any questions for Donna on the facilities report? Okay, we'll move forward. The next is the preliminary citizens hearing. Let me make a change, a procedural change, that we're going to go back to something that we did previously in the past. We're going to go back to that starting this evening. There will now be 2 citizens hearings at each one of our board meetings going forward. This first one, which we call the preliminary citizens hearing, is only for agenda items only. So those residents who have a question about items on the agenda that we will vote on very shortly can ask a question or make a comment about agenda items only. After that, we'll go through our agenda items. There'll be a final citizens hearing, and that will be the opportunity for people who want to ask a question about anything else as it relates to our district. They can ask it at that time. I'll remind people that to be recognized, please ensure your first and last name is listed on your device. You should use the raise your hand function. I'll unmute you, which will allow you to come off mute and address the board. If you have more than one question, please ask all of those questions at the beginning. The board recognizes students and staff members' rights of privacy and therefore encourages all members of the public to address their concerns regarding individual students and our staff members by meeting privately with the appropriate administrative staff. When addressing the board in a public forum, members of the public should refrain from identifying any student and or staff member by name and are solely responsible for their comments, which could be considered defamatory or slanderous according to the laws of the state of New Jersey. Each resident will have 3 minutes to speak. And with that, we will open up the preliminary citizens hearing. Again, this is the citizens hearing for people who have questions about items on the agenda. I do not see anybody with questions about items on the agenda. That's so. I will close the preliminary citizens hearing and we will move on to our agenda items. With that, we'll start with administration items A through G. Jordan.
And unmute. I'll move on to administration items A through G.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Young, Mr. Chinchulli,
Yes.
Mr. DeQuila,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. Education items A through I. Mike.
Yes, I move education items A through I.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Mr. Chinchulli,
Yes.
Mr. DeQuila,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. Personnel items 16. A
I'll
through-
move, I will move item 16A through JJ.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? So I have a discussion item. There are close to 40 items on the personnel agenda tonight. And sitting very close in front of me is Elizabeth Kane. Elizabeth Kane is on the agenda tonight because Elizabeth is being recommended to be a math teacher in our district. For those who don't know Liz, Liz has been one of our most active volunteers. She's been active in the PTO. She's been active in the Ed Foundation. She has been active in just about every volunteer organization that you can think of. And just recently, she went back to the teaching profession a relative short time ago. We are now incredibly fortunate to have Liz Kane being one of our teachers. So I believe it's item CC on the agenda tonight, which we will approve in about 30 seconds. We're going to welcome Liz Kane to be in our teaching staff. And I can share on behalf of the board, we couldn't be happier and prouder to have one of our very own active volunteers now be a professional in our schools. You have our gratitude, you have our thanks. We welcome you as an employee. We can't wait to hear about the great things that you'll continue to do for our district.
Doug, can I say just one thing? And you're teaching my favorite subject, math. Yay.
With that, roll call.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes on items A through V.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Chinchulli,
Yes.
Mr. DeQuila,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. Liz Kane, welcome to the Berkeley Heights Public Schools. Moving on, 17, business.
I'll make a motion on business items A through X.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes on items A through V.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Chinchulli,
Yes.
Mr. Tequila,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. Item 18 is finance. I actually reviewed the bills this month. I found them all to be in working order, so I'll motion item 18.
A second?
Motion is second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Chinchuli,
Yes.
Mr. Tequila,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. With that, we will move on. We'll now start the final citizens hearing. This is a time where people can address the board on any other topic. With that, I'll open the citizens hearing. I will not read what I said before, but the same rules and guidance applies for anybody that wants to address the board. Seeing nobody that wants to address the board. Oh, hold on. Sai, good evening.
Good evening. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to start. Good evening. I have a question about why are we changing the order of preliminary and final citizens hearing? On what basis?
Is that your only question?
No, I have a follow-up question, and with all due respect, I will ask my question and wait for your response and then ask my follow-up questions. I believe asking parents and residents to give all our questions up front and then muting us is a violation of our First Amendment rights. I really wanted to say that aloud. So
You're more than welcome to say that out loud, but the way this meeting is going to run is you'll ask all your questions up front and we will answer all your questions up front. We've talked about this at 3 straight meetings. I've told you how we run this meeting. Ask all your questions now.
is it a policy, Doug?
It is not a policy, but it's the way we run the meeting.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, we are now past the statutory signing deadline of 21 days, excluding Sundays and holidays, to sign the contract awarded to Salazar and Associates for bathroom projects at MKM and Woodruff. Has the contract with Salazar and Associates for bathroom projects been signed yet? And if it's not signed, because as of last board meeting, I think on the facilities report, Donna said that they have already applied for the permits and ordered the materials. If the contract has not been signed, why are they doing the work and ordering the materials? And were the bathroom projects at MKM and Woodruff included in the 2020 amendments to the district's long-range facilities plan that were voted on by the board on April 2nd, 2020 to submit to the Department of Education for review and approval? If yes, do you have the approval from the Department of Education for the final educational adequacy? And it's a yes or no question. So I think I have a right to wait for your answer and then I'll ask the follow-up.
So, Sai, I'm not going to say this again. You don't have a right to wait for a follow-up. You can ask your questions and we'll answer them. I'm not going to say it again.
Yeah, and I hope you won't mute me after I finish asking my questions, because that is definitely a violation of my First Amendment rights.
It's not a violation
So,
of your First Amendment rights. We have the right to run this meeting the way we are. This is the 3rd time we've talked about this. Ask the rest of your questions as your time is still running.
Okay. And do we have the approval on the educational adequacy in regards to this project? And if not, have they started reviewing these projects? And what's the timeline on us getting these approvals? Then if yes, have they given any indication on when the approval might come? The 3rd question is, do you have a final approval of plans and specifications for these bathroom projects at MKM and Woodruff from the Department of Community Affairs? Division of Codes and Standards, or the construction code officer in Berkeley Heights. The fourth is, what is your alternative plan for FDK if you do not get the permits to do the bathroom projects? And I think the superintendent mentioned that they were, like, I think these are getting backlogged. My question is, did we even submit these projects for review? Are they technically backlogged, or did we apply for these or not? And a follow-up question from my previous at the board meeting was, I was asking for a statute. You and Dr. Warley said that giving out the information of percentage of special needs kids impacted by this whole reconfiguration and redistricting was law restricted information. I asked, what is the statute? I did not get a statute in the email response from Dr. Warley. She just gave me it was 1% of kids. I don't know on what basis. So repeatedly in the emails, it was mentioned that it's law restricted information. But when I asked for a specific statute, I did not get the statute. So is it okay to make inaccurate statements? And how is it, what are the repercussions for making inaccurate statements on the record by the superintendent and the board president? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for questions. We're going to combine a couple of these because they're overlapping. The first one I'll answer in terms of why do we change the order of the hearings. It has been board policy for quite some time to break out the two meetings, to have both a preliminary meeting and then a regular meeting. During COVID and the length of some of the meetings, and because we were having so many people on Zoom, we decided to combine them. It was a temporary decision that we made, but we as a board have made a decision to go back to the way we regularly schedule our meetings. Dr. Varley, you mentioned at the beginning the answer to many of Sai's questions, which is, so why don't you address the fact that the approval, which you've already stated that we don't have, you've talked about what is the backup plan, which you've also stated. And then Donna, I'm going to come to you on the long-range facility plan component of that, and then we'll close back on the special needs. So Dr. Varley, start with what approval we have versus don't have, and what the backup plan is.
I had a question about Salazar's contract too. What is happening with the contract? If it has been signed, if it's not been signed. The last board meeting, you said that materials were ordered, permits were applied. So I think you missed that.
I'll make sure we cover that as well. Go ahead, Dr. Varley.
Okay, so the Department of Education has not been in person probably since March of 2020. They've just returned to in-person in the department. So they are backlogged on their construction approvals. At this time, we do not have approval to begin construction of bathrooms at Mary Kay McMillan or at Woodruff. So we're working diligently through our architects, through everyone we possibly can get in touch with to gain approval. However, if it does not come through, once we get approval, we can start just on Woodruff since we have enough bathrooms to get started at Mary Kay McMillan. If it doesn't come through in time to do Woodruff, we will do Plan B, which is have our staff members walk students to the bathroom. Kindergarten is the only grade level that is affected by that. There are 4 kindergarten classes in each of Mary Kay McMillan and Woodruff. So that will be our Plan B. The Department of Education, the Executive County Business Administrator has said that there will not be a problem getting approval for that.
Great. Donna, can you answer the question about the Salazar contract and whether this was included in the long-range facility plan?
The bathrooms were included in the long-range facility plan. Our long-range facility plan has been approved, and Salazar's contract is being, our attorney is still working on it by issuing them, but we did issue them a purchase order for this work. Our architects and many people believe that the construction of the bathroom does not require educational adequacy. There's no educational adequacy to that. You're just adding a bathroom to a classroom. So educational adequacy approval is not required.
Great.
I have a quick question for the backup plan for that as a follow-up. Like if the teachers have to escort the children to the restroom if the plan B has to happen? Is there a concern or like with who would be, is it the teacher that has to escort or would there be someone else that would come to the room to provide that?
So it would only be Woodruff that we would have to do this in. We have enough bathrooms at Mary Kay McMillan. So we would have to hire an extra aide. There's only 4 classrooms. So it would be what the requirement is that the bathroom has to be in line of sight. So when I've done this before in other districts, we put a mirror up so the teacher can stand at the doorway and see a child walking to the bathroom. But in the end, we don't have that ability at Woodruff. So we would have to have someone physically walk the children to the bathroom.
Okay.
Great. And the last part of your question, Saif, the last question had to do with your question about special needs. And after further reviewing your question about special needs, we did not provide a statute because we actually answered your question. So we answered that question for you in an electronic mail to your question about, is there any repercussions for lying? Nobody's lying to you, Sai. We thought we couldn't answer the question. We did some more research. We answered your question and you got the answer that you desired. Next person I see is Tom Farger. Tom, good evening.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can. How are you
Okay.
tonight? How are you tonight,
I'm fine,
Tom?
thank you. Let's see, I just have 2 questions. Are tonight's changes, which I think dealt with teacher assignments and bus contracts, reversible? If you don't get the bathrooms constructed, then you have to do some other plan. And the second is, I know that Salazar and Associates applied for permits in Berkeley Heights for these bathroom projects. And in his application, he certified that he had all the required state approvals. Why would he certify that if you don't have the approvals?
Tom, thanks for your questions. First one, Dr. I think you kind of answered that. Teacher assignments, and we're going forward with the plan. So teacher assignments, I assume, would stay as is. Is that correct? So teacher assignments would stay as is because we will implement our K-2, 3 to 5 alignment plan, even if we have to go to plan B. Donna, I'm not sure you could answer the question for Salazar, but Tom's point is they applied for permits saying they had that. Do you have any comment on that?
What he is certifying is that he has what he needs as a contractor under the state of New Jersey. He has no idea whether our bathrooms are approved by the DOE or not. So a contractor has to have certain certifications, and he meets all the certifications required by the Department of Education to do work in a school.
I thought you said the state had not approved the project yet.
The state hasn't, but that has nothing to do with Salazar's certifications. He's certifying that he has the right licenses, that he has, there are certain things that they certify that they have no outstanding business up to a certain amount.
No,
So
that's
he
different.
has certain,
He certified that the project itself was approved by the state.
I don't know. I can't answer because I don't know what he certified.
It's on, you can look at what he did. You can look at his application. You'll see.
Okay, I would have to look at that before I can accurately answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Tom, thanks for your question. Next person is Megan Diaz. Megan, good evening.
Hi, Doug. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. Good evening. Welcome.
Hi. So I'm asking a question on behalf of a group of parents regarding Jenny Byram. And for those of you on the call who don't know her, she was a special education teacher at Mary Kay McMillan who tragically passed away this January. And she was just an absolute lovely person who truly dedicated so much of her life to the school. And there's a lot of us that would really like to do something to honor her memory. So I'm wondering if the board has discussed this at all, or if there's any plans already in motion that we can join in on to help.
Dr. I'll ask you to comment in. We did obviously talk about the tragic loss of Jenny in January of this year. I would suggest, Dr. I'll let you chime in, that we work with Andy Corley to talk about that. One of the things that the board needs to look into, which you don't have today, is some type of naming policy, as unfortunately we've had people pass away who've done just amazing things for our district. But Dr. Volley, how can Megan and others contribute and maybe talk to Annie or other ways?
Yeah, I think the best bet would be to start at Annie Corley and at Mary Kay McMillan to see what she already has in motion. And then anything that is a facility or any type of playground or anything along those lines for naming rights has to go through the board. But we do need to get a board of facility naming policy going because we do have wonderful people who are passing away. And but we need to get some kind of streamlined process for that. But I would say your best bet is to go to Miss Corley Hand at Mary Kay McMillan. And start there.
Great, thank you, Dr. Raleigh. Thank you, Megan. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the board? Not seeing anybody, I'll close the citizen. Oh, hold on, I just saw one. Todd Najarian. Todd, good evening.
Good evening. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Loud and clear.
I just wanted to ask in regards to what Mr. Forger was asking. So Salazar certified that all the state and county and local prior approvals had been given. Can you guys provide clarification on that? Because that's not exactly what's being recognized. I think that's a bit of a miss there. And then if we don't have the bathrooms based on this plan B, is there a need to still move the kids, or could plan B just be accommodated where the bathrooms are at MKM? And then maybe there would be like a staged a transition period because the bathrooms aren't done as indicated when the plan was presented and rolled out. And do we actually have enrollment numbers for how many kids are actually enrolled for FDK for next year? I think that would be really, really good to know. And I guess that, and then next year, I guess again, the point is, you know, if we're not moving all the kids to, and plan B is accommodated at Mary Kay, do all the teachers have to move as well? Again, potentially a transitional year rather than right away. Thank you.
Great, Todd, thanks for your questions. I don't think we have anything more to share other than after what Tom Forger said about Salazar. We'll look into that. I don't think we have anything more to share other than what we shared so far. Dr. Raleigh, do you want to answer the question about the staging? And you know, you talk about Plan B. Are there other ideas besides that staging?
No, because there's no room. There isn't room at Mary Kay McMillan for all for all 8 full-day kindergarten classes. So we do have to move students to Woodruff. So in the end, the only Plan B we have is to have the aides or some staff members to walk the students to the bathroom. We would still move K to 2, 3 to 5 across the district. But in the end, you know, we have to have a Plan B in case the construction approvals do not come through.
Last question, Dr. Raleigh, the full-day kindergarten numbers, the total numbers, I believe is 131.
The last time I checked, and it's been at least a week or two, it was 131. We do know that we receive a lot of registrations during the summer. So we're not stuck at 131, and I'm sure we're going up.
Great, thank you. Next I see is Dakota.
Can you hear me?
I can.
All right, it's not Dakota, actually, it's Doug.
Doug, good evening.
Doug
Doug, even though I know you, can just state your full name?
Doug Grover.
Yep, good evening, Doug.
Hi, I have a couple of questions. One is for Dr. Varley. There's about 28, I think, maybe 30 teachers that have left the district, either retired or resigned. I'd like to just have you explain how many retired, how many resigned, what percentage or what so is from reconfiguration. And do you find this alarming that so many teachers have resigned or left for whatever reasons there are? Also, a little confused about the traffic study, thought that was going to get done in 30 days. Do you guys have safety routes resolved? If it is done, then why are you presenting that next month? Thank you.
Great. Doug, thanks for your questions. I actually have the numbers, Dr. I'll help you out. Do you have the retirement numbers broken out?
I've got, I don't know.
So Doug, if you don't mind, I'll answer the question. There have been 23 retirements across the district so far, broken out as 3 administrators, 14 teachers, and 6 support staff for a total of 23. However, of those 20, a total of 23. 20 of those 23 teachers, so 20 of the 23 indicated their retirement prior to us announcing anything to do with redistricting on April 8th. Only 3 of those retirements came after the discussion about redistricting. So the implication that redistricting, that people heard about redistricting and retired, factually, the data just doesn't add up. So again, total of 23, 3 administrators, 14 teachers, 6 support staff, and only 3 had announced that after the April 8th deadline. As to the traffic study, the traffic study was completed by May 31st, as indicated. We have already had a preliminary meeting with the police department and the engineering and the engineer, as Donna had indicated. Next Tuesday, we have an internal facilities and finance committee meeting to go over that recommendation as well. And after those 2 meetings, we will be happy to share that with the public at our next meeting. And that's why it's something talked about before that. Thank you, Doug.
Well, all right, follow up. 36 posted jobs. How confident are you you're going to fill them before the year of next year?
Dr. Varley?
So we are interviewing like crazy, I would say. We have most of our positions filled. We are holding out for some science people at GL and at CMS and a few math people. So if you know anyone who's applying, I believe we're in the same boat as most districts. This has been a tough year for the for educators. And we have seen across the board as superintendents in my superintendents group, a great deal of retirements.
Great, Dr. Varley. Thanks very much. Doug, thanks for your question. Lee Timmerman. Lee, good evening. How are you tonight, Lee?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I am very well. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm curious if the study of subscription busing has concluded and how many parents have signed up for it. That's the only question I have.
Great, thank you. The answer is there are 164 people who have signed up for subscription busing this year. From the survey that we got from from the parents, we have outlined what those bus routes are. It's 2 bus routes at Hughes and 1 bus route at Woodruff. We will be sending out the documentation for that. We have committed to give a 50% discount for that, and we'll go through with that. So right now it's 164. If history tells us, I suspect that number will be slightly lower. In the past, when we did subscription busing, from the time that people indicated to the time when people actually did it, we typically had a couple of people fall off. So 164 is what we got for subscription busing for those 3 routes.
Thank you.
Lee, thank you very much. Next up is Michael LeBlanc. Michael, good evening.
Good evening. I want to start off with a little bit off topic, but I do want to thank Ms. Gasparini for her wonderful service for the past years. I was looking forward to have my youngest attend Woodruff next year under her, but with her retirement, I guess we'll be meeting a new principal, but I do want to thank her for all her service and time with the board, and would encourage the board to extend that thanks as well. I also want to thank the board for addressing a concern I had a few months ago about calls from the schools not occurring during dinner time. I've seen an improvement in that. I get phone calls now at 7:30 at night, which is definitely an improvement. There still hasn't been any discussion about the railroad crossing on Snyder with the crossing guard. That has been neglected still. I'm also trying to find out information. Is the district going to be allowing outside groups to schedule events in the buildings again this fall? Groups like the Cub Scouts, the Boy Scouts, there's been not a lot of contact information there. Other item is, I'd also like to offer some feedback to the district on scheduling events during the workday. When you schedule events at 1:45 in the afternoon, working parents cannot get to those events. And again, would like to encourage the district to consider the fact that parents, many families have 2 working parents today, that we need time in the evenings after 6 p.m. so we can attend school events, because the parents who work are being left out. Again, there was an event yesterday. It was held at 1:45 and again at 4:30. I got out of work at 6 yesterday. I didn't get home till 7:15. I can't attend events when they're scheduled during the workday. And as a parent who is engaged and who wants to remain engaged, we are being left out when events are constantly scheduled during the day. We can't all just take off of work when we have our own professional responsibilities.
Great, Michael, thanks. Thanks for your feedback. Regarding your two questions, so the railroad crossing at Snyder has not been forgotten about. As we explained in the beginning, there are two parts to traffic safety and security. Part one is the traffic engineering report that looks at the surrounding areas of the school, looks at the drop-off and pickup, crossing guards by the schools, and traffic patterns. The second part is our continued work with the police department to look at areas outside the confines of the school, which is walking patterns on some of our main roads, and it will include the railroad tracks at Snyder. So it's not been forgotten. It is on the agenda to be discussed with the Berkeley Heights Police Department this summer. Donna, can you talk about the outside groups for groups like the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, and others? Are we allowing them? I know we're allowing them in the spring using GL. So I'm going to assume the answer is yes, but can you clarify that for Michael?
We continue to follow the CDC guidelines, and as we bring students back to school, that will be something that we'll address, but most likely we will be able to continue those activities next year and again, we'll make sure they follow the CDC guidelines, but we haven't definitely determined that.
Got it. Thank you, Donna. Michael, thanks for your questions. Dipti Khanna, you're up next.
Hi, Doug. How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you? All right. I have about 4 questions, I think, that I want to ask a few on the board. The first one is, when the K-2 3-5 model was recommended and it was approved, did you guys do any kind of an educational adequacy approval from either the county or the state? Or did you guys give them reasons to say, this is why we want to move to the model? This is how we're going to measure success of this model. Did you guys do anything of that nature with either the state or the county? That's question number 1. Question number 2, we've heard all evening that you don't have the required approvals to actually make the bathrooms and so on and so forth. Will the board reconsider their vote on scenario number 4 and instead look at either scenario number 5 or anything else, given that we're not ready? You guys voted on scenario number 4, assuming that things were in place, including permits, including approvals, and so on. Question number 3, one of my questions for Dr. Warley, I think a few weeks ago was, how are the teachers that are teaching their grades for the very first time, right? What are the plans to support them, additional support? And I think the response was, we cannot give you that data as to how many teachers are teaching their grade for the first time. That is all well, and if you don't want to share it with the parents, but I would definitely be concerned if you don't have an idea of how many teachers will need the extra support because they're teaching a certain grade, couple the fact that children are coming out of a pandemic with potential learning gaps. So I would highly encourage the board and the superintendent to pay attention to, figure out, get them the help they need, because this might not be really an easy transition as, hey, I'm teaching, 3rd grade for the first time. I think there will be more things to look at. And then my last question is, there has been a lot of information shared about the HIB training for the staff, but I'm curious to know, are there any special curriculum programs for the students, to address this problem more organically? Because HIB for the staff is great, but you need to address the root cause of why this is happening. So I'm curious if there's anything in the defined curriculum. That's about it.
Great, Dipti. Thanks for your questions. Dr. Well, you want to take the first one in terms of the K-2 3-5 was approved at the board meeting on April 29th. I think our question was more of, was there an educational adequacy level needed improvement by the executive county superintendent or not?
There was no need for an educational adequacy conversation with the DOE. We did talk to the executive county superintendent and the curriculum specialist at the county multiple times. Donna and I met with them many times to walk through our plan. So they were well aware, but we didn't need an actual approval. We just walked them through our plans.
Right, and the second piece of that, Dipti, is in terms of measurements, we talk a lot about student achievement, and we'll continue to report out on student achievement in multiple ways. Obviously, we don't typically talk about student achievement at the kindergarten level, but as it relates to the areas where we do report out student achievement, we will measure the success of that as one element, and not that this student achievement is the only measure, but that's certainly one of the measures. In terms of your second question about whether we reconsider, I think Dr. Rowley's made it clear. As for right now, we have a plan B to keep our K-2, 3 to 5 scenario 4 plan to go forward. That is our going forward plan. If for some reason we cannot implement our plan B, obviously the superintendent and the board will work together to do that. But for right now, we're staying with the plan that we.
So what's your date? I guess I'm trying to understand. I mean, it's late in the summer, right? That if you figure, hey, we can do this. So at what point are you gonna, plan B is okay, but if it doesn't work out, is there a plan to actually vote on something else? Because the vote that happened in, I don't know, April was under a certain set of assumptions. That's what I'm trying to figure.
Right, I understand your question. And right now we have executive county approval for our plan B. So right now, if we do not get the construction permits and that piece does not come to fruition, we have a plan B. So that is our plan. If that plan B somehow doesn't come to fruition, obviously we'll have to reconsider. Dr. Verley, third question was about the first-time support for new teachers. Can you talk a little bit about what you and Mr. McKinney and the principals are doing for those teachers who are teaching class for the first time?
Absolutely. So all of our teachers are trained generally in the grade bands, K-2, 3 to 5. So they have, and that's what their degree is in. That's what their certification is in. So we do, while we offer support through Mary Beth Kopaz, who is our curriculum person, and she's running some workshops over the summer, as well as, she pushes in and gives support, as well as our building principals will give our teachers support. So we have the utmost confidence that if they move from first grade to second grade, they will be able to address that curriculum and push through. And, as far as second to third, same thing. They all have the certification and they have the degrees in the appropriate areas.
I mean, I'm not questioning the degrees. I mean, that's why they are teachers in the district. This is more about just being tuned into from a planning perspective. I would encourage you guys to kind of think about, this is not just you are reconfiguring the schools. You are doing this at the end of a school year where a lot of kids were remote, right? My son was remote for the first, 2 months, and I could tell that it is not easy to do that. So I would really encourage you to kind of go beyond the fact that the teachers have the degrees. That's exactly why they're in the district, to actually figure out what is the on the ground help that they need, because it's not going to be easy. So that's all.
And there was one more question.
Yes.
Dipti asked, HIB training for students. What do we do?
Yes, each school does their own HIB training for students. It is, and it can be, it's not necessarily a curriculum, but it is a requirement that all students are trained on what HIB is. I will tell you that all of our students understand the HIB concept, and they know exactly what the harassment, intimidation, bullying law means as far as perceived characteristics.
Great. All right, Dr. Verley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dipti. Is there anybody else that wants to address the board? I see 2 people have already spoken before. I will allow you a follow-up question or 2 for the 2 people who are identified, and then we will close the citizens hearing. Tom Farger, do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you, Doug. You said you just got an approval on your new long-range facilities plan. Did that show Woodruff as a K-2 school and Hughes, for example, as a 3 through 5 school?
Donna?
You know, Tom, I would have to go back and look at that in detail.
Well,
Tom,
you must know the answer to that.
I can answer part of it. If you remember correctly, last year we were planning on having pilot programs at Woodruff. So we were going to have to put the bathrooms in Woodruff anyway. So it may not have said a K to 2. It may have just had us having kindergarten down at Woodruff.
That's okay. We don't know the answer right now. Tom, I assure you, we'll get back to you with an answer and we'll let you know exactly what it said. Thank you. Last question. Sai, you have a follow-up question?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, this is in follow-up to that whole Plan B that's being proposed. When can we see a written, documented Plan B that Dr. Worley announced today? And with like latest enrollment numbers, and I agree that the enrollment numbers might change over the summer, but by when does the district plan to distribute that this is Plan B? And then if, as a follow-up question to Dipti's question, is by when in summer, if Plan B is not able to be implemented, can we get a date on by when there will be another decision making be done by the board? And in regards to the long range facility amendment that was, I think it was submitted. So the approval that was received, when were these amendments submitted to the state? Was it on April 2nd? And from what Dr. Worley said, it maybe Woodruff was not listed as a kindergarten. So if we got an approval, but then we are making a new, the model is different now. It's K to 2, and then Hughes is a 3 to 5. So shouldn't you be seeking another approval from the Department of Education before you make the switch? Because I believe any district before, from what I interpret the New Jersey state statutes or the regulations, before you make the switch, you need to go in front of the Department of Education. It's all good and fine that you went to the county and the executive county superintendent, but these are long range facilities. And I think these buildings and these facilities are funded by the taxpayers, and you're making significant changes to them for long term. So if you're making these changes, I think they do come under the purview of educational adequacy. If you can not answer this question right now, by when can you respond back to me in an email? Because the reason I'm asking you for the date is sometimes we ask you the question and you say, yeah, we'll get back to you. And then we email you and we email you. And then they just get counted on this, list of correspondence. Also, all the board voted on the hiring of the teachers and changing of bus routes. If we are going to Plan B and the Plan B doesn't, is not implemented, are tonight's changes to teacher assignments and bus contracts, especially the teacher transfers, reversible if need be? And by when can you make that determination? Yeah, just one last question, Doug, I think sometime in summer of 2020, the district started, or the BoE started listing the names of people who are corresponding, I think, requesting Oprah requests. It's really great to hear like Woodruff has this whole Be Kind movement, and then, all these schools have HIB. But then what was the point of view at the beginning of the meeting when Donna read out that there were 33 Oprah requests, and for you to signal out that there was one individual sending 23 correspondences and 22 requests? I think we're allowed by law to seek information, and everybody knows why we are seeking this information, because everything in this district of late has been so secretive. You've taken down documents. I have asked you, I think 8 months ago, why are the meeting agendas being taken down, especially with the attachments? And you said, oh, we'll get back to you. So because of this extreme secrecy, and I hope I want to actually address this question to every board member. Are you guys okay with listing the names of the residents who send correspondence and who actually put in an Oprah request? And are you okay with the BoE president making this snide remark? And when we are talking about HIB and being kind, was that a kind remark to make, that there was one individual who put in this request? Is there anything wrong with that?
So I got to thank you for your questions. Let's answer each one right now, the answer to 3 of your questions are all related. As Dr. Varley said, we have a plan B. Right now, plan B is our going forward plan. I don't have a date to tell you when we will change that, because right now we believe plan B is going to be as an acceptable plan. Of course, we hope to get approval and not have to go to plan B, but right now we have approval to go to plan B. There is nothing to write up for plan B, so there'll be no written plan B. We're going to escort children down there. As far as the full day kindergarten numbers, we have 131. If there's any material change to that, we're happy to talk about that. We know over the summer that those numbers typically go up. If they do go up in any material way, we're happy to report out those at any future meeting. Donna has already answered the long range facility plan question. Obviously, we'll get back to, we'll announce that, or we'll share that with those who have asked that. As far as your last question about,
Doug,
let me finish answering the questions.
my question was not, Donna did not answer my question. My question was, when the long range facilities plan was submitted on April 2nd, 2020, did we have the schools listed as K-2 and 3-5? And if they were,
I know what your question is. We don't have the answer for that right now.
So when can
we'll have the answer by next week. We'll have the answer by next week. It's Thursday night. I assure you, you will get the answer next week. As to your last question about Oprah, first of all, as I've told you before, we're not going to go around the horn and ask board members to answer that question. There's 2-part answer to your question. Why do we start listing them? The answer is for transparency. For transparency, we're listing that. And I made a simple comment just to reflect the fact that a large number of requests come from one individual for correspondence and one for Oprah. It has nothing to do with being kind. It has nothing to do with anything that you implied. It is simply the fact I was making a statement that a large number of those are coming from one person. Thank you for your comments this evening. With that, I will close the citizens hearing for that, and we'll move on to.
I think there are 2 people with their hands raised, and if we were in the no, Doug, let me tell you this: if we were there,
I've told you this before. I've given you the courtesy of answering 2 sets of questions, 7 questions the first time, and 5 questions the second time. I've answered your questions. I've answered your questions, Sai. I'm going to move on. I do see one other person, Sai. That is the end of your conversation with us this evening. I've answered your questions twice. Dawn Bernstein, I see you have a question.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get on here. That's all. Sorry. I'm just trying to start the video. Thank you. I just have a quick question. I want to first congratulate all the students who are honored tonight. It's really exciting to hear so many students are achieving such a high level at GL. And I also wanted to ask a question. I had spoken with Mrs. Gasparini last week, and I'm just wondering, in light of the fact that she has resigned, my son is slated to begin first grade in the fall. I had wanted to speak with her because I was concerned. I had hoped that there might be an opportunity for an in-person orientation because I know that my son would definitely benefit. It's going to be his first time in Berkeley Heights, the public schools. So I was hoping, and she assured me that there would be. She was adamant that there would be. She wasn't at the time letting me know that she would be resigning. So, she assured me that there would be. So I'm wondering if that will carry over to the next principal. And also, I'm not sure how long it'll be before somebody is she's replaced. And those are pretty big shoes to fill. She was quite wonderful. And I was really happy to speak with her. But is there a concern about getting the school ready? Because she had spoken about the many things that need to be done. And she had said that she was wanted to make sure, it was very important to her that students not come in until the school is ready, so that when they do, it looks like it's going to look for when they attend. and I appreciated that. I absolutely thought that was, I agree. So I'm just kind of wondering, is this going to carry over? I know that you don't know who the new person's going to be yet, but will those wishes be carried over?
Yep, got it. The answer is obviously yes. Dr. Ball, you want to just talk a little bit more detail about that?
Yes, absolutely. And even though Ms. Gasparini is retiring, she is committed to seeing the building transformed into an early childhood center. We are already beginning to get applications for the position, so we're hoping we find a very qualified candidate quickly, but we will wait until we get the right candidate for the school. All of our schools will have an in-person orientation, especially our early childhood center. So I can assure you that there will be an in-person orientation, and Mary Woodruff will look like an early childhood center.
Great, thanks, Dr. Rowley. With that, I will close the citizens hearing for this evening. Is there any other new business to come before the board? I have an item, but is there any other business to come before the board?
Do you mind if Tomas sent me a message. Can I read it to you?
Sure.
Okay. So Tomas wanted to let me know that the National Honor Society recently announced that it's expanding its tutoring services to be available to students across the district, seeing the challenge posed by remote and hybrid instruction. So tutors will be able to help students complete summer assignments or review course material. More information will be distributed to the various schools through the Friday folders in the upcoming weeks. And it's too bad that Tomas can't be a principal.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else besides me have any other business to come before the board? Okay, not seeing any. There's one item that that I want to address before the board, and it has to do with filling a board vacancy. We have the unfortunate task of trying to replace Helen Kirsch, but the board has to take on its obligations. So here's the process that we will follow. Any resident who wishes to serve in this board position, which is from now until when the board does this, until 12/31, are invited to apply. Candidates need to be over 18 years old and a resident in the township for at least 1 year. If you're interested, you can submit a letter of interest along with a resume to Donna Felizola at the board office. Letters and resumes must be received by Friday, July 9th at 4 p.m. And the board is planning to hold a special meeting to interview those board candidates on Thursday evening, July 22nd. We'll interview those prospective candidates. We will be issuing a brief note tomorrow. It will cover exactly the items that I just talked about. And for those who are interested in seeking that open position on the board, should do as follows: submit a letter of interest to Donna, and then they should also hold the evening of July 22nd, where we will have an in-person discussion. That will be a public meeting, so it will be a regular public meeting. We have done this in the past, about 6 years ago when Mary Ann Walsh resigned. So we have done this before. We will follow the same process that we did then. And the public is, of course, invited to attend that meeting on July 22nd. Seeing no other.
Doug, do you want to clarify the election in November with what we're doing in terms of interviewing? You mentioned December 31st, but how does this affect the November election?
Sure. So the way the law works is that when a Board of Ed member is unable to fulfill the completion of their term, the board gets to select a candidate to fulfill only through the current calendar year. So although Mrs. Kirsch's term did not end at the end of this calendar year, when she's not able to fulfill that role, this person will only fulfill that role until the end of the year. So what will happen is, instead of 2 board seats, which would be up this year, there will now be 3 board seats that will be up this year. So that is a change from what would have been before. So thank you for clarifying, Robert. So this person, whoever is selected, will finish out this calendar year, this election year, through 12/31, and there will be 3 candidate seats open this year. Thank you, Rob, for the question. Seeing nothing else, I will take a motion from the board to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. We are back in 2 weeks at our June 24th meeting. Enjoy the last couple of days of school If you have a child who's either has a move up or a graduation, we offer our congratulations, and we'll see you again on the 24th. Have a good rest of the night. Thank you.